Hey entrepreneurs, it's AJ, and aren't we having some crazy times here in the world today? First we had bushfires here in Australia, then we've had the coronavirus, and now we've got the moronavirus. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. My English is not very good looking. But anyway, I want to chat to you about my entrepreneurial mindset and the framework, and it really is the key to surviving disruptive times. When your life is changing due to circumstances, something's impacted you adversely, having an entrepreneurial mind is really the secret to getting through it all. So today's video, I want to grab a cup of tea and sit down with you and share a story of how, or rather where my entrepreneurial mind comes from. And it's something that you might not think of. Alrighty, we're here in the backyard because most of us are working from home, so I thought it's a gorgeous summer day here. Summer? Autumn? I don't even know what season it is. But we're here in the backyard with the tea, and I thought I'd continue this conversation. So, entrepreneurial thinking, entrepreneurial mind, entrepreneurial behavior. Where does mine come from? Okay, so it's a little bit weird, but everything stems from my childhood. And my sense of creativity, my sense of playfulness, my sense of adventure all comes from my childhood, right? And combined with the strictness of my parents, in particular my dad. If you've heard me speak on stage, you'd hear me talk about my dad a lot. He's an amazing individual. He also a very annoying individual, but he was an ex-British Army, so he was trained, ex-Sri Lankan Army who was trained by the British, so they were extra strict, you know. So my childhood was basically growing up in boot camp. But I'll come back to that in a second. So one of the things I did as a kid was I used to read a lot. And I used to read the books, Enid Blyton books, like The Famous Five and Jupiter Jones and The Three Investigators, that sort of stuff. And what books were they? They were always about kids doing things that adults couldn't do. And so I grew up with this sense of adventure and this sense of playfulness and also challenging the status quo. And the status quo at the time, of course, was my dad. So I spent an incredibly long amount of time trying to outsmart him and get my own way, right? And so one of the stories I haven't really shared before is that I used to, after I graduated uni, you know, I'm not a poor uni student anymore, so I used to take full advantage of that, and we used to go out like a lot during the weekends, during the weekdays. Every time we'd go out, we'd hit the clubs and we'd come home quite late. And there was one time when I came home really, really early. Dad always said, come home early, as in, like, don't stay out too late, but I would take it literally and come home early, you know, early morning. So I knew I'd get into so much trouble if he found out, and I think I came back around 6 o'clock in the morning when, you know, so I slowly, and I mastered the art of, you know, turning off the engine of the car like a little bit down the driveway, and so he couldn't hear it, and coasting into my car park, right? And then I'd have to get out and shut all the gates, and I oiled all the hinges and things like that so they couldn't hear me, right? And then I'd have to sneak in. So I mastered walking on the right steps in a certain way so that they wouldn't creak. And so I'd walked up the stairs, and then his bedroom is a long corridor, and his bedroom and Mum's bedroom was at the start of the corridor. Then there was a spare room in the middle, and then my room at the end. And my room didn't have an ensuite, but right outside the door was the second bathroom, or the third bathroom, or fourth bathroom. I don't know. There was a lot of bathrooms in that house, right? Anyway, so I'd made it home, snuck upstairs, and I'm walking really quietly past the door, and I'm so happy because I get to my room and Dad hasn't heard me, and I've done it. Yeah, I've done it. So now it's 6 o'clock. I've been out all night. I'm dead tired. I'm so tired. I just want to go to sleep, right? So I take off my shirt, and then I had to use the bathroom, and so I open the door and I go out, and there's Dad, right? And he's just standing there, and he goes, you're up early. Are you going out? I was like, yeah, just going out to breakfast. Good. Okay, I'll see you when you come home. So I was forced to go out after this big night out. I'm so tired. I had to go out and spend a couple of hours out with, find some friends to spend some hours out with. And yeah, you know, so it was crazy, right? It was absolutely crazy, just because I didn't want to get punished, right? So that sense of adventure and that sense of playfulness really came into play. And then later on in my life, throughout my career even, I would use that that sense of adventure and playfulness and creativity to solve problems. In my own, this is when I was still working for another consulting firm, solve problems for them, solve problems for my friends, and I became really good at solving problems, right? Instinctively. And there was another moment with my dad, and some of you might have heard this story already. It was about how I got locked in my room, except my door doesn't have a lock, right? And crazy stuff happens to me all the time. Anyway, so I'm trying to jiggle this door open, and it's just not working, and now I'm banging on it, trying to bounce it open, and finally I break it open, right? And my dad comes running and goes, "What's wrong? What's wrong? What's happened?" And I said, No, nothing's wrong, just the door doesn't work. I think we need a new handle." And he said, "Okay, I'll call the cousin." I said, no, you don't need to call the cousin. I can handle it. I can fix the door, Dad. And he goes, You studied IT? How do you know how to fix something like this? I'll call the cousin. And I was like, all right, listen, how about I teach you how to fix the door and then you fix it for me? He goes, that's okay. Okay, we'll go. So we went to Bunnings, got the door handle. I taught him how to fix it and he fixed the door and it was all good, right? Now, that makes no logical sense whatsoever. But in my dad's view of the world, his perception of the world, I could not do that task because I was not formally qualified for that. And you'll find throughout life, you'll find these people in life who just have a certain view of the world and they're locked into it and they just don't see things from a different perspective. But as entrepreneurial thinkers and leaders, we ought instinctively see things differently. So I'm hoping you start to see how, as a kid, I was sort of nurtured or sort of in an environment where I had to be creative. I had to be, because I didn't want to get punished, right? And then I've taken those lessons and applied them in an entirely different context. And when I started the consulting firm and even my speaking business, I always get booked by people who are looking for that outsider perspective. You know, they want fresh ideas, fresh thinking. And because I'm across a lot of industries, but I'm not in those industries, I'm able to bring an incredible perspective to an industry or an organization. And that becomes really valuable. And that's why people book me to speak. So what I'm saying to you guys now is that we're facing times that many of us have never dealt before. And it's because you're feeling, and because of that, you're feeling a little bit worried, a little bit scared. You don't know how things are going to happen. You don't know how things are going to turn out. None of us do. But the thing is, if you develop that alternative perspective, you'll always be able to be ahead of the crowd. And another example of this is that I've been doing videos like this for a few decades now, right? And I'm humbly, I think I'm okay with them, right? So now every other speaker, because of all the cancellations of all the gigs, they're forced to do this. And it's a different medium unless you're comfortable with it. So the minute that all these lockdowns were announced, I am so happy because I get to use one of my core skills to put myself ahead of the competition. And while others might claim to do the same thing, it's really, they have to learn and master the skills, and they will eventually. But, you know, I'm so far ahead of them, so far ahead of my competition. And I'm hoping you start to see how, you know, the creativity, the playfulness, the disruption of the status quo, embracing your own, who you are and what your strengths are, can really put you ahead while everyone else is figuring out what to do and they're living in fear. So I hope this video serves you well, and I hope it inspires you to go back to your childhood and really think about what did you used to be and how did you used to do things when you were a kid. And if you're at home, quarantined or in isolation or wherever, embrace that and let it open up new ideas for you on how to manage things for yourself, your family, your work, and the community and society in a bigger picture. All right, entrepreneurs, that's me done. Whatever happens in business and in life, I wish you nothing but success. Take care. And hey, do us a favor. I'd love to send more videos out to you, and if you could just tell me the sort of things that you want to hear. Do you want to hear more inspirational stories? Do you want to hear examples of innovation? Do you want to hear stories of hope? Do you want to hear I don't know, crazy stories about my adventures in business? Most of them I can't share on LinkedIn, but you know, we'll see what we can do. Anyway, just leave a comment below and let me know what you'd love to hear, and hopefully I'm here to serve you and entertain you and keep you inspired so that you can go out there and change the world. All right, entrepreneurs, Take care.